Hello, everyone. This is Empowering Democracy, and I'm your host, Joe Firestone. This is our Thursday Neoliberalism show, and our topic for tonight is Neoliberalism and AI Progress. And we will be going carefully through an article from TruthDig that is describing current conflicts within the AI community in terms of how people are imagining the future progress of AI, and how they're debating what the main issues are, and how they're visualizing the future, and how they see what's at stake. So all this is very significant, and the role of neoliberalism in all this is pronounced. It's just a new upsurge of neoliberalism, in a new field. Well, not in such a new field, but in the field of AI. Anyway, so Steve Wolfbrand is here. Hello, Steve. Nice to see you here. And I think there are a couple of others too, but they have not announced themselves, as yet. So let me go to this central article from TruthDig, which is so significant in describing what is going on in the AI area. So the article from TruthDig, which you should be seeing on your screens right now. Yes, you see the top of it. I'm going to share this live stream on Facebook right now, if you give me a few seconds to do so. So there it is. I've now shared it. I'll now quiet it down. I see that Kay is here. Hi, Kay. Nice to see you. There are still some folks who have not announced themselves, but I'll start on the article now. The title of it is, quote, "Effective Accelerationism," unquote. That's a tongue twister, isn't it? And the pursuit of cosmic utopia. How an arcane philosophical rift in Silicon Valley is shaping the race to build artificial general intelligence, also known, as AGI. So AGI is the holy grail, of the artificial intelligence field, creating, I'll just call them creatures that have the quality of general intelligence. The creatures that can learn on all fronts and that can create. This is a visualization. You see all kinds of worlds as viewed from a planet. All camps in the terrestrial community ultimately share a fantasy about the distant future. And this image is from Adobe. Yes, the very large Adobe software company gives us this image. The author of the article is Emil P. Torres, who's a Truthdig contributor. And he says, there's D, who's joining. Hello, D. Good to see you. What we're doing tonight is mainly focusing on a single article which appeared in Truthdig.
Okay.
The title of the article is called Effective Accelerationism and the Pursuit of Cosmic Utopia. The tagline is How an Arcane Philosophical Rift in Silicon Valley is Shaping the Race to Build Artificial General Intelligence, which is the capability that humans have to generally learn, in all areas. That's the holy grail of the field, of artificial intelligence. So I was just starting off the article. The author, is Emil P. Torres, a Truthdig contributor. The recent ouster of Sam Altman from Open AI, that's a company, followed by his reinstatement within a week, triggered a flurry of speculation. What led the board of OpenAI to fire the face of artificial intelligence, one of the most popular figures in Silicon Valley? Some believe that Altman's dismissal was the culmination of a fight between, as the media have framed it, quote, effective altruists, unquote, and so-called, quote, accelerationists, unquote. The effective altruists, also known, as EAs, quote unquote, want to slow the march towards artificial general intelligence, or AGI, while accelerationists want to push the pedal to the metal. Sam Altman, according to this narrative, leans accelerationist, while board members, like Ilya Sutskever, Helen Toner, and Tasha McCauley, were those who aligned with the EA approach. The effective altruist approach. In the end, the accelerationist won, as Altman returned to his position as CEO, and Sutskever, Toner, and McCauley were removed from the board of directors. Some EAs now think this power struggle may be as bad for EA's reputation as the collapse of FTX and the subsequent imprisonment of its former CEO and co-founder, Samuel Bankman-Fried. Sure you all remember Bankman-Fried and the collapse of his crypto exchange, the FTX exchange. He was arguably the most prominent effective altruist in the world, alongside his moral advisor, philosopher William MacAskill. What exactly is, quote, accelerationism, unquote? How does it contrast, with effective altruism? And how does it connect, and does it connect with what Dr. Timnit Gebru and I call the Tescrial bundle of ideologies, quote unquote. Okay, a cluster of techno-futuristic worldviews that have become immensely influential within Silicon Valley and major governing institutions. I suppose those are the governing institutions in Silicon Valley. We will see. With a few exceptions, there's very little in the popular media about the accelerationist movement, which received a burst of momentum with Altman's return to open AI. Well, there are important differences between accelerationism and EA, which accelerationists play up in blog posts and interviews. Their respective visions of the future are more or less identical. If you imagine a 5 by 5 foot map of different ideologies, accelerationism and EA would be located about an inch apart. Taking 5 steps back, they'd appear to be in the same location. Meanwhile, both would be about 3 feet from the field of AI ethics, which focuses on the real world harms caused by AI from worker exploitation and algorithmic bias to the spread of disinformation and environmental impacts of AI systems. To understand the topography of this map, let's put E/ACC. I'm not sure what that means. It's not really defined here. I take it it's not the same as accelerationism, not quite the same, or it would have the same name. Put E/ACC and EA under a microscope to see how they diverge and where they overlap. This is a graphic of accelerationists versus decelerationists, or versus, also called, the decels, accelerationists, versus, quote, decels, unquote. Two views on the dangers, of EI. This image is also from Adobe. The differences between accelerationism and EA fall into 2 areas. The most significant concerns their respective assessment of the, quote, existential risks, unquote, posed by that opposed by artificial general intelligence, by AGI. The accelerationists are techno-optimistic. They believe the risks are very low or non-existent. To quote one of the, I have to say here, they better be non-existent because the stakes are so high. When the stakes are so high, the possible negative impacts that one could imagine are so high. It must be true that both the probability and the likelihood, are non-existent, because otherwise the weight of the stakes in the equation that defines the risk would be so great as to outweigh the probability or the likelihood, even if both of those were very low. I won't discuss here the difference between the probability, and the likelihood. There is a difference. It's an important difference. It involves 2 different conceptions of risk. Basically, risks can be defined as the probability times the stakes or the cost involved in some endeavor. The risks could also be defined as the likelihood times the costs. Anyway, to quote one of the thought leaders of contemporary accelerationism, a man by the name of Guillaume Verdun, better known by his spooneristic pseudonym Beth Jesus, quote unquote. It's not Beth Jesus. An existential catastrophe from AGI has a quote, zero or near zero probability of happening. Do I have to ask the immediate question? Is the likelihood of it happening zero or near zero? Because as I say, the probability is not the same as the likelihood. You can have things occur that have a near zero probability of happening, but for various reasons have a high likelihood of happening. So if you define risk as the stakes or the cost times the likelihood, then if the likelihood is high, you're not going to want to take that risk. Anyway, another leading accelerationist, tech billionaire Mark Andreessen, the founder of Netscape, if you recall, and a leading venture capitalist in Silicon Valley since then, declares in one of his manifestos that he is, quote, here to bring the good news. AI will not destroy the world, and in fact, it may save it, unquote. So many effective altruists tend to be much more techno-cautious, at least when it comes to certain hypothetical technologies, like artificial general intelligence, AGI, while the popular media and accelerationists often refer to this opposing group as, quote, the EA, unquote. A more accurate label would be, quote, long-termism, unquote. The reason is that effective altruism is a broad tent and includes many people who aren't that interested in artificial general intelligence, existential risks, and similar matters. Traditionally, EAs have distinguished between three main cause areas within the movement. One is alleviating global poverty. Two is improving animal welfare. And three is long-termism. When EA formed around 2009, it was initially focused entirely on global poverty. But over time, most of its leading figures and grant-making organizations have shifted toward more long-termist issues, such as mitigating the supposed existential risks of AGI, which again, the accelerationists see as nearly zero or close to zero. So, one big difference is that the long-termists believe that the existential risks of AGI are not near zero or close to zero. Or maybe they believe that the stakes are so high, that it's not even enough to have a near zero probability or likelihood. One must have an absolute zero probability or likelihood. in order to do what the accelerationists want to do. The reasoning went like this. The fundamental aim of all EAs is to do the most good, quote unquote, possible in the world. So the objective of alleviating global poverty and ending factory farms seem like obvious ways to do this. But then EAs realized that if humanity survives for the next century or so, will probably spread into space. And the universe is huge and will remain habitable for trillions of years. Consequently, if one takes this grand cosmic view of our place in space and time, it seems obvious that most people who could exist will exist in the far future after we've spread beyond Earth and colonized the accessible universe. Reading this article, why do I think that the EAs think they're living in the middle of a novel, by Isaac Asimov or Asimov's successors in the Foundation series? But anyway, it seems obvious most people will exist in the far future after if we spread beyond Earth and colonize the accessible universe. It follows that if you want to possibly influence the greatest number of people, and if most people live in the far future, then you should focus on how your actions today can help them not only live good lives, but come into existence in the first place. The connection with AGI is that EA long-termists, or long-termists for short, believe that it could be essential for colonizing space and creating unfathomable numbers of future people, most of whom, incidentally, would be digital people living in vast computer simulations. This is the upside if we get artificial general intelligence right, meaning that we build an AGI that's, quote, value aligned, unquote, with this, quote, ethical, unquote, vision of the future. The downside is that if we get AGI wrong, it will almost certainly destroy humanity, and along with us, this, quote, vast and glorious future among the heavens. In the words of long-termist Toby Ord, co-founder of the EA movement, I have here to interject and to say, I don't understand why this glorious vision of the future is dependent on whether humanity survives or not. Isn't there an assumption here that there are no other intelligent beings but somewhere else in the universe that are capable of creating the existence of AGIs? It seems to me there's that kind of arrogance afoot here. Everything, therefore, depends on how we build AGI, the entire future of humanity, spanning trillions and trillions of years into the future, spread across galaxies, hangs in the balance. And given that we're on the cusp of building AGI, according to many long-termists, this means that we're in an absolutely critical moment, not just in human history, but in cosmic history. What we do in the next few years, or perhaps the next few decades with advanced AI, could determine whether the universe becomes filled with conscious beings or remains a lifeless waste of space and energy. So again, the assumption here is that on Earth here is where life is and where intelligence is, and it's not in any other place. I, for one, can't accept the arrogance of that assumption. And I don't see the basis for it. Maybe the long-termists could tell me what the basis for it is. This is partly why many long-termists are techno-cautious. They want to be very, very sure that the AGI we build in the next few years or decades opens up the doors to a heavenly techno-utopia rather than turning on its creators, okay, and annihilating us, thereby ruining everything. Okay, I'm not sure the AIs are going to do that. It seems like we might be well on the way to doing that ourselves, just with our failures in conventional foreign policy. I'm not talking about just us, but the failures of nations to come together and remove the risk, okay, of nuclear war, and the failure of nations to come together and remove the risk of destruction from the climate emergency. It's fine to talk about the risks, okay, of AI. Those are very, very important, and I think we ought to be very concerned about them. But I do think, okay, the more immediate risks that face us are the risk from foreign policy and the risks from the climate emergency. Over the past 20 years, long-termists, so the word itself wasn't coined until 2017, have thus explored and developed various arguments for how and why a poorly designed AGI, artificial general intelligence, could kill us. Accelerationists claim these arguments are unscientific and overly pessimistic. They denigrate proponents of caution as, quote, doomers, unquote, okay, and decels, quote unquote, short for, quote, decelerationist, and presumably a play on the word, quote, incel, unquote. From the, I'm sorry, I forgot what incel means. So if any of you can remember what that means, I'd appreciate your putting it into, because I don't think I'm going to Google it, okay, at this point. From the accelerationist perspective, there's nothing worse than a, quote, decel, unquote, which can give the false impression the accelerationists and long-termists are miles apart on the ideological map. This points to the second disagreement between the two camps, since getting AGI right is extremely important in the long-termist view. We need to figure out how to properly align, quote unquote.
What's the matter?
Hmm?
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought the mute was on.
Okay, we need to figure out how to properly align, quote unquote, AGI with the, quote, values, unquote, of, quote, humanity, unquote, by which long-termists implicitly mean their own values. Well, maybe they do mean that, but, maybe they mean have a broader conception of the values of humanity. For example, I might be more sympathetic to the long-termists than I do the accelerationists, but I don't necessarily think that my values are the values of all humanity. I mean, I have some value theories that I would propose, but I don't think those value theories are held by everyone. I do think that everybody has their value theories, and they are not all the same. Toward this end, long-termists established a field that's now called, quote, AI safety, unquote. Now, I have to say right away, I think that's a really sensible field, which focuses on how an AGI might cause an existential catastrophe and what we can do to avoid this. The field of AI safety thus emerged directly out of the long-termist movement, and it calls the problem of designing the, quote, value aligned, unquote, uh, artificial general intelligence, the, quote, value alignment the problem. Well, that seems very sensible to me thus far. Long-termists imagine our present situation as a desperate race between AI safety and AI capabilities research. If capabilities research produces an AGI before AI safety research finds a solution to the value alignment problem, then a, quote, misaligned AGI will kill everyone on Earth by, quote, default, unquote. Of course, there are many science fiction horror stories about that sort of possibility. And they've been around for a long time, actually. They're not new. If AI safety research solves the value alignment problem before capabilities research produces an artificial general intelligence, then the AGI will be aligned, quote unquote, and we get utopia among the stars. Now, I think that statement is highly problematic because just as with other kinds of theories, value theories are conjectures that have to be tested by time and have to be subject to attempts to refute them, over time. When you take that into account, you realize that our values, human values, and the values of those who succeed us will be changing over time. And for the AGIs to be aligned with our values, we will have to be changing our values, our value theories, along with the change in the AGI value theories. In other words, this is not going to remain static. The value alignment problem is not going to be a problem where the human values are learned, by the artificial general intelligence, and the artificial general intelligence just aligns itself with the human values and stays aligned with human values that do not change. The human values will be changing as connection to the internet went south. So I'm going to restate what I just said because I seem to be back online now. I was off for, I don't know, might have been 30 seconds. The point I was making was because we humans are learning about our values all the time, and are changing our values all the time, changing our value theories, all the time. In order for the AGIs to stay aligned with our values, and in order to avoid, a misalignment, the AGIs have to learn in coordination with us. It's a dynamic problem. It's not, a static problem. So getting utopia, among the stars, is itself, a dynamic problem. Because as we encounter new conditions and new circumstances, as our societies develop, among the stars, our values and the values, of our AGIs are going to be enmeshed in a process of dynamic change. But I can see that our Silicon Valley people don't seem to be talking about that yet. They're talking about a simpler problem. Because I think they need to read a little Karl Popper. Anyway, because AI safety research lags behind AI capabilities research, according to Longtermists, they believe we're in serious danger of total annihilation in the near future. I guess what they're talking about is, total annihilation by the AI, by the AGI, the artificial general intelligence, will destroy us unless the AI safety research does not lag behind the AI capabilities research. This is why they argue that we need to decelerate capabilities research and allow safety research to catch up. I have to introduce another thought even into this particular conception. And that thought is, if you define the idea, of AI safety as being one of the capabilities, one of the AI capabilities as an important area, of AI capabilities, then of course it's all about the AI capabilities research, and there being no conflict between the AI safety capabilities and other AI capabilities. But it's all a matter of AI capabilities. This is why they argue that we need to decelerate capabilities research and allow safety research to catch up. Prominent AI doomers such as Eliezer Yudkowsky have thus called for an AI, quote, ban, unquote, while others have argued for a, quote, pause, unquote, of such research. How can we implement such a ban or pause? This is where the government enters the picture. Long-termists claim the government must regulate research projects that aim to build AGI, artificial general intelligence, such as those being produced, by OpenAI, DeepMind, Anthropic, and Elon Musk company X AI. There he is again, Elon. Altman himself has made this argument, which suggests that he's not a full-blown accelerationist, suggests he's not a full-blown fool, but still has one foot in the AI safety camp. For full-blown accelerationists, this is deeply misguided for a couple of reasons. First, since they believe the existential risks posed by AI are negligible or non existent, such regulation would be utterly pointless. Its only effect would be to slow down progress on AI, thereby delaying the techno utopian world that they imagine it bringing about. Secondly, most accelerationists are libertarians who oppose government interference in the race to build artificial general intelligence. They would say that even if AGI poses existential risks, the free market is by far the best way to mitigate these risks. This, folks, is where neoliberalism comes in. This is why they advocate open sourcing advanced AI systems. The best way to counteract the dangerous AGI would be for there to exist 1,000 other AGIs that are good. Well, what if in the free market, you can get 1,000 other AGIs that will be bad? Fight power with power. Fight speech. Fight bad speech, okay, with good speech. How's that working out for us? The main point here is sometimes that works out well for us. Sometimes it doesn't work out well for us. If we do not regulate the conditions that are going to maintain free speech, and what you get is a certain kind of speech gaining power over other kinds of speech and using that power to short circuit other kinds of speech. Certain kinds of ideas gain power, and the people who have those ideas see to it that other ideas that might threaten their power do not exist. That's what happens in the free market, okay, essentially. Free markets with no regulation self-destruct. Why should it be different in the field, okay, of AI? Here you have to raise the question. Maybe the accelerationists are people such, okay, as Elon Musk, who think they're going to quickly get to the top of the heap and they're going to dominate everything. And if that's an existential risk for everybody else, then that's just too bad. Because don't we see that happening in Silicon Valley as just a regular process where billionaires are turned out and in their specific fields of software invention or computation invention, they just dominate all comers and all challengers, okay, to their position. So once they've gotten into their position, what they do is stifle the innovation, okay, of others. Why? Because that's the way neoliberalism works. This is what it's about. It's about the competitive Darwinian struggle for survival. That's why capitalism has to be regulated. That's why it cannot be left alone. Because free market capitalism self-destructs in every field. And it will self-destruct in the AGI field itself. Now, China is pursuing AGI very, very aggressively itself. But I'll bet the way the Chinese are pursuing AGI involves being very careful that the AGI won't pose a risk to the human values that are supposed to govern everything. At least I would expect the Chinese to approach it in that particular way. Of course, the Chinese will view it from the standpoint of the human values of the Communist Party as it exists at that particular time, or the human values of the leaders of the Communist Party as those values exist, okay, at that time. So that presents, okay, its own problems. But one thing we know is that we can't count on a dangerous, okay, artificial general intelligence being countered by less dangerous artificial general intelligences, okay, that are good. We need to have a different conception, okay, of what is going on. We need to build in structural controls. We need to see to it that the AGIs and ourselves are learning, okay, in an adaptive way. Both the humans and the AGIs are learning at the same time and sharing, okay, their learnings. We need to set up something like that. We need to set up a coordination. We need to set up an ecology. We need to set up a cohabitation of some sort so that there's no possibility of having the AGIs get too different, okay, in their learnings than the natural intelligences that constantly communicate with them. What's being envisioned here is a world where the AGIs, okay, and the humans are coming together, where the AGIs are enhancing, okay, the human intelligence, and the human intelligences are contributing to what the AGIs learn as well. I don't know if it's possible to set up a system like that, but that's the kind of system that we have to aim for. And that kind of system is necessarily going to involve some regulation of the AGIs. And the AGIs also, in their turn, are going to present some regulation of the humans as well. It's going to have to be, okay, a mutual thing. That's the vision. It's not so much fight power with power. It's more like build power together for the benefit of all, the human intelligences and the AGIs as well. Going on, their argument here isn't that different from the National Rifle Association's claim that, quote, the only thing that stops the bad guy with a gun is a good guy with a gun. Let 1,000 AGIs bloom and you get a utopian meadow, say the accelerationists. Let 1,000 AGIs bloom with no regulation, and what you'll get is a dystopian meadow, that is governed by an artificial Hitlerian intelligence. So long-termists are techno-cautious, while accelerationists are techno-optimistic. in the sense that they don't see AGI as existentially risky, and where long-termists see government intervention as playing an essential role in acting cautiously. Accelerationists think that government intervention will only make things worse, while simultaneously slowing down the march of progress towards a utopian future world. I can understand why the accelerationists might actually think that, and it might be true that you'd get that, but there are different kinds of long-termism and different kinds of intervention by governments. It's not all the same thing. And it isn't necessarily true, that government intervention is going to slow the march of progress, because everything you do is not about the march of progress. You could be doing things that are advancing the march of destruction, not the march of progress. Progress itself is a value-laden term. Things are not considered to be progress if in the end they're not in line, with our values. So value alignment is necessary right along, and value alignment only happens when government is involved as well. Not just government, but society at large, and government as the representative of society. These are the first major differences between accelerationism and long-termism, says Torres, the author of the article. The second concerns their particular visions of the future. As we'll discuss below, both are deeply utopian and in practice are virtually indistinguishable. Even though some leading accelerationists have a slightly different take on what humanity's ultimate goal in the universe should be. If you allow me, I don't think there is a single ultimate goal in the universe. I think what our goal should be, in the universe is to keep the universe, an open universe where creativity is part of constant learning forever. The open universe should be the ideal, and that means there's not simply one goal. In open universes, goals are constantly being created by the universe. Here, it's useful to make explicit a version of accelerationism that's gained a lot of attention recently, especially since Altman's ouster at OpenAI. This is called effective accelerationism, abbreviated, quote, E/ACC, unquote. That was the EACC in the Adobe graphic that we saw above. It wasn't defined in that graphic. So it's effective accelerationism, an attempt to synthesize the effective altruism, I guess, with accelerationism. This has some connection to the acceleration of Nick Land, a far-right racist philosopher who has written about the, quote, supposedly inevitable, quote, disintegration of the human species, unquote, when artificial intelligence improves sufficiently, unquote. However, EA/ACC is the brainchild, of Verdun, also known as Beth Bezos, who describes it as being rooted in thermodynamics. In particular, Verdun bases his grand eschatological vision on a highly speculative theory proposed by the MIT physicist Jeremy England, though reading Verdun's writing gives the impression that this theory is established science, which is not the case. So far as I can make sense of it, excuse me just a second, I'm going to continue this for just a few minutes more, and then I'm going to call a halt, okay, for today. And I'll pick this up again, I think, next week, okay, for the rest of it. It's an extremely long article, and it provokes very interesting discussion and very interesting thinking, I think, okay, at least on my part. But I don't think I can complete that thinking tonight because it will be a very, very long stream. And I don't think that I want to make this that long a stream tonight. But I think it's very much worth taking up actually next Thursday as well. So I'll go on for a few more minutes, find a stopping place, and then we'll continue next Thursday. This is really, really a long piece. So far as I can make sense of it, continuing where I left off, and I'm not convinced that Verdun properly understands England's theory. The idea is that the universe is moving towards a state of maximal entropy or disorder. This part of the story is in fact true. The second law of thermodynamics does imply that entropy will increase till it reaches, a maximum. Verdun then claims that drawing from some of England's work, life arose basically because it's better able to help along this process. We take usable energy from the environment and convert it to unusable energy, thereby increasing entropy. Quote, intelligence, unquote, evolved because more, quote, intelligent, unquote, creatures are better able to catalyze the conversion. Extending this idea from biology to economics, which England most certainly doesn't do, Verdun argues that companies, corporations, and capitalism itself are types of superhuman intelligence. I laughed at the idea that companies, corporations, and capitalism are types of superhuman intelligence because often I find that the organizations we create are more stupid than ourselves and more incapable of learning than ourselves. For example, the foreign policy institutions of the United States are a prime example of this. Types of superhuman intelligence that are even more efficient at using up energy. Well, we certainly are efficient at using up energy, and that a gigantic, sprawling civilization spread across galaxies would be more efficient, still. Verdun's conclusion is that we must lean into the quote, will of the universe, building increasingly powerful technologies, and eventually colonizing the entire cosmos, because this is what the universe, driven by the fundamental laws of thermodynamics, quote, wants, unquote. What is the case is also what ought to be the case. A fallacy that any undergraduate philosophy student will immediately recognize. Yes, the logical gap between is, and ought. That is to say, you can't infer what ought to be from what is. Well, there are exceptions to that, actually. There are some exceptions. The logical gap between is and ought is not as great as it is thought to be in some of the approaches to philosophy. But apart from that, uh, the simple idea that what is the case is also what ought to be the case is a fallacy that any undergraduate philosophy student will immediately recognize. Quote, what accelerating effectively means in practice, Verdun explains, is climbing the Kardashev gradient, also known as the Kardashev scale. The Kardashev scale is a ranking of civilizations according to how much energy they're able to use. I have to say, how much energy we are able to use doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to use all that energy. That's what sustainability is about. A type 1 civilization uses all the energy on its planet. A type 2 civilization harnesses all the energy produced by its nearest star. And a type 3 civilization captures all the energy of its galaxy. The more energy a civilization captures and uses, the more in line it is with the quote, the will of the universe. I have to interject here that a type 4 civilization may be one that can capture all the energy of those parallel by universes which are close to us in the multiverse. But of course, to say something like that, you have to believe in the idea, of the multiverse uh, and the kind of physics that has been espoused uh, by various people, over a period of time. I like the idea, of the multiverse, but that would be a type 4 civilization. So already we have a scale that is, shall we say it, more advanced than the Kardashev scale. I've just defined it. The more energy a civilization captures and uses, the more in line it is with, quote, the will of the universe, which is why E/ACCs like Verdun believe that we should do everything we can to accelerate the development of technology and ascend the Kardashev scale, since they claim that building artificial general intelligence is probably the best way to do this. We have an obligation to accelerate capabilities research, in the field of artificial general intelligence. There's contrasts with the ultimate goal of the Longtermists, which is to maximize, quote, a moral value, unquote, which might be understood as the total amount of pleasurable experiences, in the universe. Now that immediately there is nonsense. That's to specify the idea of moral value in terms of the idea, of utilitarianism. And that, from a value theory point of view, is ridiculous. So if that's the ultimate goal, of the long-termists, that shows how primitive their ethical ideas are. That's why they want to build, quote, safe AGI, spread into space, and create huge computer simulations in which trillions and trillions of digital people live. The more people there are with pleasurable experiences, the larger the total quantity of pleasurable experiences, and the larger the total quantity of pleasurable experiences, the better the universe will become. From a moral point of view, or morally speaking, as the text actually says. So, put differently, both the E/ACCs and the long-termists think the ultimate goal is to maximize something. For the EACCs, this something, quote unquote, is energy consumption. For the long-termists, it's value in a more general sense. That said, maximizing energy consumption might be the best way to maximize the, quote, value, unquote, that matters to long-termists, which leads us to the similarities between these different ideologies. So I think I'm going to stop there for today. I just want to add one more thought for today. The opposite of entropy, of the heat death of the universe, the opposite of that, okay, is organization. What human intelligences do inside of the universe, or at least what they would do if they spread throughout, okay, the universe, and not just human intelligences in the narrow sense of earthborn intelligences, but also biological intelligences bred, okay, on other planets. What they maximize is organization inside, okay, of the universe. And organization is the opposite, okay, of entropy. So perhaps the way to fight the heat death, okay, of the universe is to organize across the parallel types of universes that exist, okay, in the multiverse. That's the kind of thought that has occurred to some of the people who think about, okay, the multiverse and okay, the meta universe that they believe physics shows, okay, exists. So I'm going to leave it there for the time being. I've already indicated, okay, the connection of this thinking about artificial general intelligence and pursuing it, okay, to neoliberalism. Obviously, the accelerationists, okay, are neoliberals who don't believe in any control by society and who don't believe in assessing risks and who don't believe in safe forms, okay, of AI. And we have to be very careful, okay, of those people, very careful of the Elon Musks, okay, of the world, because what they're doing is they're pursuing power, not simply knowledge. And that power results in oligarchy. And it results in suffering for other people who do not control, okay, the power. So I'm going to pick this up again next Thursday. And I'm going to start discussing the similarities between, okay, the ideologies. And I'll also spend a little time going back into the thinking that I've obviously done in past years about, okay, the nature of the multiverse, because that seems to be very, very relevant here. So I hope you like this. I'm going to end it here for tonight. And I'm going to go back and see whether Dee has any comments that she would like to offer here. And after
Okay.
Dee's comments,
I think you took care of it all. It's serious stuff. It really is.
it really is, isn't it? It's kind of deep types of thinking, but somehow at the core of it, there's the idea of these people who are neoliberals saying, "Let me do what I want to do. Don't get in my way.
Yeah.
There is no risk, so don't get in my way. Just let me do what I want to do. And don't worry about any possible risk. I'm telling you, there's zero risk."
Yeah.
Yeah,
We got a bridge to sell you, right?
that's what they're doing. They're selling us a bridge.
Mm.
And that's what we have to keep in mind. We don't want to let them sell us a bridge.
No.
That's for sure. Okay. So we'll take this up again next Thursday. I'm finding the exploration to be fascinating. What I have to say here is that obviously, since AI is so important and will be applied in so many areas, if neoliberals and neoliberal philosophies control it, that's going to be very, very bad for the rest of us. And that is, okay, a threat. There are some comments here. Steve Wolfbrand says artificial general intelligence is coming fast, probably this year. Well, Steve, if you know where it's coming from this year, then please let us know, because I think a lot of people in various nations are working on artificial general intelligence. I suspect in Russia they're working on it, and the Russians are very good at this sort of stuff. Uh, they've been very good in the past at this sort of stuff, and they'll continue to be very good at it. And I'm sure the Chinese are right up there right now. The Japanese are probably right up there in some respects as well. By the way, the full development of artificial general intelligence is going to have a lot to do with quantum computing as well. And that means in this field, the leaders in quantum computing are also going to be very, very important. And right now, the two leaders in quantum computing are the Chinese, and also the United States. And I don't know whether the United States has the lead in quantum computing. I think the Chinese might have that lead.
Mhm.
So here we go. And quantum computing, Steve says at 9:09. Yes, quantum computing. And of course, you know about the multiverse interpretation of quantum theory, Steve, right? Steve says there's no stopping it. So glad you are addressing this. This is our next evolution, and it is here now. This could be the best thing to happen to humanity or the worst thing. Doc goes off the rails, says Steve. We need to leave this planet ASAP. Well, I agree with that, Steve. We need to leave this planet ASAP. Steve says incel is involuntarily unable to get laid. Okay, Steve. And some delusional dude that sold Hitler some godhood crap sounds like this. Andy Kane says, that's not how it works. The universe reaches us, not we go seek it. Andy Candy, I think it's both. I think it's both. Andy Candy says, they're pursuing supremacy. Yeah, I think so. I think that's what the accelerationists are pursuing. I think they're very arrogant. Kay says, yes, Andy. And yes, I think that's right, Kay.
Let me see. I think they're all in. Let me see.
Hmm?
Oh no, I'm talking to my daughter. I forgot them. I'm not muted. She's asking me if all the dogs were in.
Oh, okay. Okay, dogs do learn.
Yes.
Yes. They do learn. They are learning animals. And I think they have a degree of creativity too. So, I think we're done here for tonight. I'll be back tomorrow night with another Dump the Corruption show. I hope you'll come for that. Are you going to have a show tomorrow night, Dee?
I think so.
Okay.
I think I will.
Okay, so Dee thinks she'll have a show at 8 o'clock. I'll definitely have one, okay, at 9 p.m. And so we'll see you then. And keep in mind, please buy us coffees. You have my Buy Me a Coffee going across the bottom of the stream. Dee's Buy Me a Coffee, exactly the same thing, but after the slash, there is D Pierce,
Mm-hmm.
all in lowercase letters. True?
Yes.
Okay. And then also I have a Patreon account, which is right up there near my face. So that's there. And D has a Cash App account, which K is $.
Dolores Pierce.
Yes, Dolores Pierce. Right.
Yes. And please hit the like button, subscribe, and share, share, share.
Yes, please get this kind of spread around. I think it's very interesting and important stream. And I sure would like it to be spread around a bit. By the way, I guess I have to tell you all, even though these streams are not doing very well on YouTube, they are doing quite a bit better on Facebook, and they're doing much better on Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
And so, actually, altogether, if I combine the three sources, probably averaging somewhere over 100 views per stream rather than the 10 to 20 that are showing up, okay, on YouTube.
I think YouTube, the algorithm there, I think they're making it more difficult for people to find other people.
I think they're making it more difficult for people to break free. Yes.
So
I,
I've heard so
I
many people saying that.
think they've been suppressing us for a long time, okay, on YouTube, but not quite as much on Facebook and far less on Twitter. So there we go. And we will see you tomorrow. Kay says good night. Okay. I love you all. And we love you too, Kay. Take
Yes, we
care
do.
tomorrow.
Good night, everybody, and good night, Bonnie. Have a good night.
Good night. And good night, Dee. But
And
you
good
have a
night.
good night as well.
Thank you.
Yeah, good night.